Looking for a fun and informative podcast all about training working dogs? Look no further than the LWDG Pod Dog. This weekly show is hosted by me, Jo Perrott, founder of the Ladies Working Dog Group, and I chat to experienced trainers and experts in the field who will give you helpful tips and advice. Whether you're just getting started or you've been working with dogs for years, this podcast will have something for you. So pull up a chair, pour yourself a cup of coffee and tune into LWDG Pod Dog. Let us help you build a better bond with your best friend. Welcome to another episode of the LWDG Pod Dog. Joining me today is the amazing Sorrel Miller of On The Peg. How are you, Sorrel?
I'm really good, thank you, Jo. How are you doing?
Very well. Now, you're here today to talk to us all about caring for country clothing. I know a lot of us are quite depressed at the end of season, and we've got all our kit that's been out for the last couple of months that we sort of want to put away, ready for next year. Some things obviously staying out because the weather hasn't left us completely yet. But on the whole, where should we even start when we're thinking about caring for our countryside clothing?
There are some golden rules that you can use. At the end of the day, if you look after it, it will last longer, and it will then also perform better when you're in the field. So it's I know it's a faff. No one actually likes doing the domestic stuff of cleaning, washing, all the rest of it, and it really isn't fun. But if you do it, then it will mean that you are warmer, drier, and you're having to spend a bit less on it as well. So to start with, things like you should never use a washing powder. You should always use a liquid. Okay, it just means that you get less residue in the clothes. You also need to start looking at the care labels. Since I started this, I've learned things about. I mean, I was never great at reading the care labels. I'd look at the temperature, but that was it. But things like if there's a line under the temperature on your care label, so you have the little picture of the tub, and then you have the number in it that tells you what temperature to wash at. If there's a line underneath, that means that you should spin on a lower cycle.
Okay.
So things like that are quite important for, they're better for membranes and cotton as well. It gives cotton less work, so it doesn't wear out as quickly. So read your care labels. And the other thing is most of this lot doesn't like high temperatures. So we're talking low temperature washing. So yeah, other than that, then it all starts to get, depending on what you're washing, whether it's wool based, whether it's cotton, whether it's silk, whether it's stuff with membranes in it.
I don't know anything really about care labels, and I'm pretty much like you. I can work out temperature and should I be dry cleaning this. Sometimes I even get that a bit wrong, especially if you're quite quick. Now, I'm one of those people as well that I don't like the tags touching me. It's a bit of a weird thing. So okay. I tend to cut them out as well. So when it comes to cleaning, I'll be like, what was I meant to do with this? In you go a 40. But okay, so we need to be looking at our liquid rather than the sort of powders. Yeah. And making sure we're reading it so that we're doing the best for it. Because I suppose those care labels are there to guide us, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing about the liquids, just while I think about it, is if you do any stalking at all, is you don't want liquid that has any white opticals in it, because animals can actually see that. It's got little reflective bits that make your white look whiter.
Right. Okay.
But so you make sure that it doesn't have any of that in. It will only be in the higher premium end detergents, but and no fabric softener. So you don't go out smelling like a floral bouquet. It doesn't do many of the clothes any good.
Yeah, because I suppose as well for hunting gear, they weren't made for us to be smelling like a floral bouquet. We need to be smelling as authentic as possible. Okay, so obviously there's many different materials that our country clothing can be made of. Shall we start with sort of our wool products? What do we need to think about with those?
Yeah, so the wool stuff will include your tweeds as well, because tweeds are generally very wool-based. Some of them, the newer ones, are starting to have other fabrics pulled in just to give them a bit more water repellency, that sort of thing. But the best thing you can do with it is to hang it. If it smells a bit, hang it and see if you can get it to improve that way. Just because if you think about it, wool has a natural self-cleaning property. That's why sheep can wear it for so long. So if you can just hang it, it will get better. If it's got mud on it, let it dry, brush it off with a stiff brush. To be honest, I tend to use a bristle hairbrush because that's normally the thing closest to hand. If it's got blood on it, sponge it with cold water, not hot water. If you use hot water, it almost sets the blood in. You really don't want that to happen. If I've got stuff that I need to clean, I will normally go in the direction of my dry cleaners, just because it's heavy when it's wet and it drips everywhere, and you're supposed to dry it flat, so not hang it. And so at that point, you're then having to search for surfaces you can lay massive amounts of tweed out on without the cat sitting on it. And and then you have to iron it afterwards. And ironing is, not my forte.
I suppose as well, if you can get it through whole season without it getting to the point where it has to be dry cleaned, you can dry clean it and then put it away until next season.
Absolutely. I mean, if you've got something that if either dry cleaning is too expensive for you, or you find that really hard to access, you can hand wash it, but it would need to be no hotter than 30 degrees. You would never scrub it. You know how you sort of agitate clothes? You would never do that. Don't twist it. You don't wring it, nothing like that. You almost massage the detergent in and only use a tiny bit of it, because otherwise you're going to be rinsing forever. So then you rinse in clean water, and you kind of just use pressure to squish it to get rid of the water. Again, don't wring, don't twist, nothing like that. Then lay it flat on a towel. But again, to dry it, no radiators, no fires, no tumble dryers, no direct heat at all, no sunlight. That won't do it any good either. So it takes ages to dry. And then you then have to iron it, gentle heat, just normal steam iron.
Right.
But again, it's really labour intensive. So if you have the option of a dry cleaner, if it's really, really, really beyond you dealing with a brush, and a cold sponge, then dry cleaners are the way.
So that's wool.
Yeah.
The general consensus is, unless you really have to, leave it alone.
Yeah.
Just let it sort of dry through, air through. What about things like silk?
So silk, again, really cool. All the scarves that we sell are you can wash them. The color doesn't completely come out. So you can wash them. Again, no tumble dryers, no radiators. You want to dry them flat as much as possible, because then you need to iron them less. And then it's a cool iron. I think it's just the single dot on your iron setting normally that you use for silk. So most of the scarves that we sell are in boxes, so you can keep them in that. We also do sell some hangers, so that if you don't want the creases from the boxes, so you want that you can hang them, so that just keeps them a bit better. But again, silk, it likes to be treated really gently.
I suppose as well, because they're natural products, like you said, they weren't meant to be put through our sort of chemical detergents, high 1400 spins.
Yeah.
So less is more. What about things like cotton? Because obviously that's still a natural product.
Yeah. So cotton, I do put it in the tumble dryer. You're not really meant to, because it actually wears cotton out. But I have too much going on to be able to deal with that. So I put everything in my tumble dryer on a baby cycle. But again, low temperature. One thing you do need to watch with some cotton products is that they are waxed. So again, low temperature, and then you will need to refresh the wax every so often. You can get tins of wax, you can get bars of wax, depending on what you prefer. But it's easy enough to re-wax. They'll all come with instructions with them. But again, if you're in your car and you've got your heated seats on, do not do that if you've got wax products on. I mean, I've got some wax trousers that are Harkila ones, and I have to remind myself not to put my heated seats on, just because the high temperature, it doesn't do any of them any good.
I suppose the waxed cotton, and certainly other wax products, is one of those sort of big bays, isn't it? Because big bugbears for people, because things like my barber jacket, stuff like that, they drive me mad, because they can get really dirty really quickly, and then you're sort of left thinking, I have no concept in the world how to clean this in a way that's not going to destroy it. Yeah, just a sponge. And again, colder water, it doesn't need to be cold, but no hotter than 30. These things are generally meant to just be used, hung, and
but you need to keep the mud off it. And certainly before you treat it, put wax. If you're re-waxing it, you need to make sure it's clean at that point. There's no point trying to put wax on top of mud or anything like that.
So just sponge it down until there's no dirt coming off with the sponge.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you think that they're a bit smelly, I would hang them. I really would. I think that's trying to do things like actually wash wax jackets is never going to end well.
And there is that sometimes about that smell, isn't it? Because like if you've had 5 soggy, dirty, wet spaniels jumping all over, then you're lobbing it in the back of a truck because it's soaking wet. You don't want it in the front of the truck. And then you got a couple of braces, and it's just, you get home, you're just like, what should I do with it? Families don't really tend to love the smell of it drying in the kitchen. So it's just finding somewhere to let it air and then sponging it down and making sure that you're thinking about re-waxing it, because they can become, people buy waterproof jackets and think, oh, this is going to be waterproof for life. But there's very few products that have sort of that life waterproofness. Waterproofness, is that a word?
It is now.
But yeah, they don't stay waterproof for life. So you do have to put something on there to support it, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I get to the end of the season and I treat everything. I have a day that and I don't just stop at my shooting stuff. I go through and do my handbags. I do all of my boots. I do everything, anything that is like leather or anything like that. I go through and I have a whole day at it. Just because you do can sort of get covered in stuff and you end up a bit filthy. But it does really prolong the life of things.
Now, I can remember growing up around horses, we had saddle cleaner and then saddle oil, So there was saddle soap and then saddle oil. Is there anything like that we can use, or is it just better for plain water?
So if for leather, I use Renapure for my leather boots. So you need to really soak it well with them, and then you need to leave them to dry for 24 hours. So you can't go out in them for 24 hours. But that's the best thing that I've found. For things like if I've got stuff that's just looking a bit tired and looks like it needs a bit of TLC for leather, I've got some. It's oil based. It's like a saddle soap, but it's less wax. It's softer than that. It's almost like a cream based stuff. So, and it is actually meant for horses or meant for tack. So I put that on in between, if you see what I mean. It just stuff that looks like it needs a bit of feeding.
Yeah.
I will go for that. Yeah. It doesn't have to say shooting on the label just for it to be used on shooting gear.
No, because the equine world have been looking after their leather for quite a long time. When you talk about Renapure there, I love Renapure too. But there is a caution with Renapure. It does make things slightly darker, doesn't it?
Yeah, anything that and any of the saddle soap oils and anything that's got oil in it will do as well. The other thing with your Renapure, it's all right if you're just using that. But I have heard some stories online of people that have used a different water repellent and then have gone to use have used 2 different ones, and it has caused marks on boots. So you kind of need to find one and stick to it. The different chemicals mixing don't seem to do very well, and you'll be then devastated if you spent a lot of money on something and you end up with white tide marks across it.
I've got to be honest, I've been really lucky. Dad, before he passed, bought me a pair of Fairfax and Faber Explorers, and my husband bought me a pair of the sort of ankle-sized ones. I should probably know what they're called, I don't. And I love both to death, and both have Renapure regularly, and they have gone slightly darker, but I've got to be honest, I really like the outcome of them, and they do tend to be those, whereas I don't wear them for fashion, I wear them for purpose, and they are literally battered. They go everywhere with me when I'm out with the dogs and stuff. So I think, put a Renapure on, make sure that that they're protected, and they, so far so good, they've stayed extremely waterproof.
Yeah, it is good stuff. You just need to make sure that if you're wearing them a lot, you need to make sure that you're doing it regularly.
Well, that's a very big plug for Renapure. So if you work for Renapure,
absolutely, they've done well out of there.
We have you over here, the Ladies Working Dogs, and On The Peg. Before we go off clothing and get completely to footwear, What about sort of membraned clothing? Because you're starting to see, like, my husband is an outdoor instructor. They have so much perfect, lightweight, waterproof stuff in so many different sizes and colours, etc., which are great for outdoor stuff for them, completely waterproof. Don't do so well, I don't think, in the dog world because they're very easily ripped. So there's not so much of a crossover, but you are seeing some of those fabrics moving over, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you see, it goes back to the fact that I don't see many spaniels that actually seem to spend all of their time on the floor. They always seem to be carried. They're always up. But yeah, I mean, so with membrane stuff, again, reducing spin cycle so it's not crushing them and creasing them. Liquids, not powders. If your membrane stuff gets muddy, that will encourage water to come through it. So you do need to keep your membrane stuff clean. The one that I always find slightly bizarre is to improve DWR water repellent finishing, you can put them in the tumble dryer, as long as you've checked the care label, but that will help that finish. You can also then get things like tech wash. I've got some Harkila wash in there as well. So if you've got stuff that you're finding is starting to leak a bit, because the point of a membrane is that it should let water through. It shouldn't let water through, but it does let you breathe. So if you're getting really hot when you're beating, that you're not just sort of boiling in a bag and sweating. Yeah. So, it does quite a complicated job. So you need to make sure that you do use the right products on it.
And you can get, like, again, tech wash. We use, I think it's called, because Matt goes through the gallons of it, I think Nick wash, and you can get them, like, go outdoors and stuff. It's not hard to get, and you just lob it in your washing machine, check the stuff in you want to clean, and it's job done, isn't it?
Yeah, it is really simple to use. Even the most domestically challenged, I think, are probably safe with that one.
Sometimes other parts of our clothing accidentally get stuffed in there, and I've got to be honest, this is not like an advocation for it, but it's never ever affected it. It just comes out. I think Nick Wax and stuff, they've all got like not a funny smell, but it's not a like florally washing powder smell. Things come out smelling like that. I don't know if they become more waterproof. I don't know if we suddenly got waterproof socks, but yeah. What about as well? Because we've covered most things here. What about things like, do you know, like you can have neoprene gloves and neoprene socks and things like that? How do you deal with those?
I would treat them exactly the same as your membrane stuff. So liquid, not powder, gentle washes. Don't put them on radiators to dry. I have sold several pairs of socks this season to ladies whose husbands are probably not ever going to forget to do this, but they've been they put their socks on radiators to dry and they've shrunk. So it has cost several husbands new pairs of socks. But yeah, you've just got to leave them flat. Otherwise the things like the neoprene that have got the almost the man-made membranes in, yeah, they really don't like any rough treatment at all.
And neoprene socks, ladies, just know why you shouldn't also put them on the radiator. It's because if the radiator is too hot, they leave a mark on your radiator and you will never get it off. I can vouch for that one too. But it is these things, like we do tend to think, oh, I'll pop this on the radiator. But radiators in our homes tend to get very, very hot very, very quickly and stay in that hot temperature. So maybe just, like you say, just let them dry naturally. The other thing when we're talking about radiators, I've seen this in a few places, is people think that, rubber, like wellies, pop them on top of the radiator, everything like that. They also hate it, don't they?
Yeah, rubber really is not a big fan. So we sell Lushimo boots. We actually have care sponges that we can sell that help put the natural oils back into the rubber. Because if rubber dries out, it will crack. What you should say is you need to clean them when you get home. No one ever does. But they will last longer if you clean them. So, even if it's the next day, if you can get the mud off them, and then the majority of the mud will just brush off, but get that off and then use the care sponge just to put some natural oil back into the rubber. But yeah, they really don't like things. So even if you've got really cold and you've got your heaters on in your car really, really, really high, and you've got it on in the footwell, even that, if you've got wet boots, is not going to please the rubber on your way home. So it definitely doesn't like campfires, log burners, that sort of stuff, again, is just a no. So you just need to leave it somewhere warm, but not with a direct heat.
So it's remembering that, the natural rubbers especially, they definitely like to be fed and cared and looked after. Because I suppose, again, we're going back to what we started with the clothing, they're natural products that have been shaped to suit us, but they also don't want to be put through sort of chemical things and forced to have a lot of heat.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing is if they have got really wet on the inside, I mean, stuffing them with newspaper is always a good trick for getting the worst of the wet out. But we also have sealant boot dryers that you plug it into the mains. It's got two bits on wires that go into each boot and that blows out warm air.
Ooh.
So that they're really good at drying. I have been known to use those to warm my boots before I put them on in the morning.
Well, that's a fascinating, not fascinating invention. I wasn't aware of those. Now I'm really glad I'm aware of those, because there's nothing worse than a wet welly. It's horrific, isn't it? So if we can find a way of drying the inside without damaging the outside, we're on to a winner.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll make an awesome Valentine's Day present.
Good. I'm gonna tell my husband. I think for most men it would probably be the gift that keeps on giving, because they can use it too.
Absolutely. Sharing is caring.
We've talked about a little bit about the looking after rubber boots.
Yeah.
When we talk about like tech boots, they needed a bit of a different treatment again, don't they?
Yeah. The thing is with tech boots is that they can be material, they can have bits of leather, they can have bits of rubber, and so you then need to treat all of those bits differently. So I've got some Harkila waterproof fabric spray that is also okay for suede panels. So then, because you don't want water going through either of those, so that just reproofs effectively both the material and the suede bits. If you've got leather instead of suede, you're better off then using an oil based, as we were talking earlier, or something like Renipure on that. And then, remember to take your laces out before you reproof it, because otherwise you end up with bits underneath the laces that haven't, or you end up with it all over your laces, and then it can make them feel horrible as you're pulling them through, or it can make the laces more likely to come undone because they slip a bit more. So yeah, you then use rubber care for the rubber bits. You need to use a spray for the technical bits and the suede, and then any leather bits want treating with leather. So it's a faff looking after them, but they will definitely thank you for it, and they will keep your feet drier and warmer. With these things, if you're going to treat them though, you do need to leave the boot to dry before you treat it. You can't come in after a day out if they're wet and then try to treat them at that point. They do need to be dry.
And we touched a little bit on leather boots, about like how we clean them. Is there anything else you think we should think of with our leather boots?
No, I think it's bearing in mind that they can go darker, as we said, when you put the stuff on, but it's just doing them regularly, because at the point that something goes through and you get wet, you'll end up with a tide mark on the leather, and then if you've got them to look nice, then they're ruined. So I don't think you can do too much on the looking after, and I would always err on that side rather than the too little.
And also the same for if you've got like leather dog accessories. We were lucky enough to be gifted the tether leads, and they're leather and they're fantastic. And being an ex-horsey person, I quite like holding them because they feel a little bit like holding reins rather than, I find cotton, I think they're cotton or normal slip leads, they get quite wet in your hand as well, don't they? They just seem to hold the water obviously all the way down. The leather ones I quite prefer. But you can clean them using the same way you can do your leather boots. And also, you can get now, a lot of us are buying more and more technical or natural made products for our dogs, aren't we?
Yeah, absolutely. All of these rules for cleaning stuff will apply to any of the kit, whether it's for you or a dog. I think the thing is that it's about, if you can keep on top of it, rather than let stuff get absolutely ditched by the end of the season, then you'll have far less to do. But when you get to the stage that it finally stops raining and you might want to put your waterproof trousers away, make sure that they're absolutely dry before you stash them. Because stuff that's gone away, partly damp, is always going to smell hideous when you bring it out next autumn. But likewise, I never put anything away in plastic bags. I like it to breathe. So I tend to then use my old cotton pillowcases. Right. So I know that I'll put all of my waterproof trousers and my gaiters will go in one of those, and I'll sort of wrap jackets and matching trousers up in a bag, and then I just stack them up in a chest that we've got ready for next year. I don't want loads of stuff in wardrobes hanging up. I find it easier just to pop it away.
I think as well, like you said, if people listen to the advice given, they can get them out a few days or a week before the season starts, hang them to let them air through again and sort of let them increase themselves and take back their natural shape. But there is nothing worse, I think, than if you put them away wet or damp, and then the following season, you're all looking forward to a season, you pull them out and some of them can go a little bit mouldy. They can be vile, can't they?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great excuse to come and buy more stuff, don't get me wrong, but it gets very expensive if you go along those lines.
Yeah, and I think we also get quite frustrated because, like you said, if you spent a lot of money on a product, you want it to last. And a lot, I'm sure you get it the same as the technical shop that my husband goes to. If you go back to somebody a season later and the first questions asked is, how have you cared for this product?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I've had a lady send me a message this morning about a pair of boots saying what I've been wearing them. They've been absolutely amazing, and all of a sudden I've started to get a bit of water coming through, and so I'm actually about to go back and have a conversation with her saying, have you done this? Have you done that? And I'm fairly sure that the answer at that point will be, I don't think I've done that. Maybe I need to, because they were brilliant. So it's always an interesting one. It's always an interesting one, and it's whether people will admit it or not as well.
Thank you for a fantastic podcast. I'm sure everybody will feel really confident putting away their winter kit and getting ready for the summer. If anybody wants to reach you for new products or for anything at all, where will they find you, Sorrel?
It's onthepegclothing.co.uk. So we're on all social media as well. All the live chat comes into my phone. So if I'm managing to herd children around, then it might take me a few minutes to reply. But drop me a message.
Fantastic. We've put a link to Sorrel's company in the show notes. So if you want to contact her directly, you can use that too. Thank you so much. And we look forward to speaking to you all next week. Thank you for listening to LWDG Pod Dog with me, Jo Perrott. Now, we all know training a dog takes time, energy and patience, but our lives can be really, really busy. Don't worry, the LWDG has got you covered. Join us for our free planning workshop where we'll show you how to use short 10-minute training sessions each day to fast forward your dog's education. Our experts have years of experience in training dogs and will help you get started on the right foot. Register now and start making progress with your furry friend today. Go to our Facebook page, the Ladies Working Dog Group, and click on the pinned post, or visit www.thelwdg.com.